What's up, Internet? You're tuned in episode 49 of Nintendo Noise, Flip Screen Games' weekly Nintendo podcast. I'm your host, Pete and Bessie, joined as always by my very good friends and co-hosts, Mr. Steven Radford.
Hello, hello.
And making his return to the show, Mr. Chuy Plays.
Goodbye, goodbye.
Well, no, hello, welcome back.
All right, fine. I'll come back from Hawaii. It was fun.
But next week I'll be saying goodbye. I can't wait. You've had your amazing vacation, seeing all the pictures and everything that you post. I was very jealous.
Okay, I just want to point out to you, the listener, that I am not abandoning you. Okay, this lot going on summer vacation.
Not yet.
I would never leave the show for 2 weeks of the year for vacations. I've never done that. Prove it. Okay, you can't. Because when I went on my last vacation, I didn't miss a show. So who's to say?
But what happened? Where were you on that Game Boy episode then?
No comment. Was that only the third week of the show's existence? Yes. Did I miss it? Yes. But hey, it was an all-time popular episode, so I'm pretty sure I was on it. I don't know.
Let's
go back.
Oh, yeah. It was a really good episode, yeah.
Anyway, you know what's going to be a good episode, gang? This one, episode 49. But, we've got a lot to talk about. We're going to be talking about what we would do if there was a Joy-Con controller lab, our hype for Xenoblade Chronicles 3, Pokémon Legends Arceus being Japan's most sold game for the first half of 2020, and in our main topic this week, we're going to talk a little bit about Bayonetta and some comments from its creator, and our thoughts about maybe Nintendo working on some other M-rated franchises. So we've got a jam-packed episode for you today. I'm really excited to get into it. But before that, let me remind you that this episode of Nintendo Noise is brought to you by our Patreon producers for the month of July. They are, of course, Christian Oliveria, Christopher Valenz, Gabriel Hasselmeyer, a.k.a. Asobi, Mary Berry, Smilky Shake, Wakahula, and Zaid Ida. Thank you all so much for your support over on patreon.com/flipscreengames. Y'all are the realest of the real, and we really truly appreciate your support of this fine program. If you want to go above and beyond just like they did, get your name read on the air, get early access to this show and our sister show, Flip Screen Games Podcast, and get exclusive access to our Patreon podcast, One More Thing, as well as a bunch of other perks and goodies. Of course, the Patreon is the best way to do it and show your support for the show. But if you don't have any money for us, that's all right. There are a bunch of free ways you can go about showing that support. Head over to flipscreen.games. That's our website where you can find links on all the places you can get involved, including our Discord, including our email address if you want to write into the show, just like a bunch of other people did. All kinds of good stuff. However you choose to get involved, we're very glad to have you. We thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of Nintendo Noise. And now it's time for the start screen. I was thinking about it, guys. I'm gonna make like a little animation when I say that. I want to I'm gonna have a thing where I put
a little sound as well.
Yeah,
what's a good start sound?
Yeah. Maybe that's this question. At a certain point, we figure out which start sound we want to rip off.
Wait, I was thinking the other day when we had guests on, it was like we asked them what their favorite Nintendo noise is, and I still like that Game Boy Advance little shining sprinkly jingle thing that plays.
I might be down for that to be the start screen sound. That'd be pretty good. Yeah, I'm into that. Definitely a Game Boy sound, I think, though. One of the two.
Or just that final little thud from the GameCube.
From the GameCube, yeah, that's a good
that
one.
That one's so satisfying.
I still like the DS one. The dun 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 dun. It seems to go on forever and ever and ever and ever.
All right, so let's jump into our start screen for the week. This was inspired by a post I saw over on the Nintendo subreddit, which has since been removed by the mods of our Nintendo. I don't know what happened over there, but somebody was raising the question of a Joy-Con controller lab, something similar to the Xbox Design Lab, which of course allows you to make your own custom Xbox controller. You get to choose the colors, of the triggers and everything. Like, you get to get pretty granular with it. And somebody asking, like, wouldn't it be cool if Nintendo had that? What would you want your design to look like? And I think all of us, to some degree, I believe, have experience with like the third-party market of like, the cool custom shells and all the stuff that, you could get on the aftermarket. But I was thinking it would just be a fun, quick little exercise for us to go through and think about like, what would your Like if Nintendo comes to you and it's like, all right, Design Labs is coming out, we're gonna get a couple folks to design their own custom controller to like show it off. What does yours look like? You know, and I have like 2 ideas. One is I would love to make like a flip screen one where it's like the flip screen yellow and like you know, because like there are the yellow Joy-Cons that came with arms, but they're more like
they're horrible yellow. That's like a highlighter.
Yeah,
yellow.
they're more
That's
neon.
Awful.
Yeah, and like I do think they look nice on the Switch, but like I want the more mustard burnt yellow kind of, you know, like that. I love that color. Like that's like a great color for me. Which is
and it looks great on me. I love that.
It does. That's why I like it. It's like I have like 3 shirts like that are just like it's a good color for me. So that's why we made it the logo. I was like, Steve, I want it to be yellow. I like yellow. And I think it looks really nice. And I think that with like just, you know, the simple black and everything, like I'd be really down for that.
You're just reminding me, like, the beginning of the Joy-Con, I knew immediately that I wanted like see-through shells for them, and I was just like, I need them to look like my old N64 controllers and stuff.
Like the
so the
see-through
first
purple.
Yeah,
so
they were nice.
Yeah, so the first pair of Joy-Con that I had a couple pairs, and I customized them. So one was like see-through red, and the other was see-through blue. And I love them. They drift too much to even be usable. I can't send them to Nintendo because they're all modded and stuff, so I'd have to like fix them on my own. It's not gonna happen. But if Nintendo
Chuy, fix them. Like they're so easy to fix. Like you absolutely could fix them.
Steve, when you come to visit me, I'm gonna have you fix my set that Doc made for me that are now drifting, and then I'll finally open them and take the note out. There's been a note in there for like 2 years.
All right, I'm sending my Joy-Con to Pete's place, so you can do that too. To mine, except it'll take Pete like a year to mail it back. So
that is accurate.
Did he ever send you Stardew Valley? Are you literally gonna pick it up while you're there?
No, he eventually sent it to me after it went on sale a year later in the UK, so it ended up costing me a lot more than if I'd have just waited a year.
Yeah, Chuy, it's easier for you. You live in the same country. I was trying. The Philadelphia post office would not help me out.
That's true. I did have a lot.
I had to go to New Jersey to send it. Like they kept being like, "Yeah, we don't have any customs forms. I don't know what you." And they never told me I could go online. They never offered any solution other than you got to just come back. And I was like, okay.
I remember you telling me she was just sat on her phone the entire time.
Yep.
Just checking out her phone, like TikToks or whatever.
That's definitely what happened. It's insane. Anyway, I'm sorry. I owe you one. No, go ahead. You got one, Steve?
Yeah, I was saying there's 2 that I always like to do. So they've added a bunch more options over on the Xbox stuff of recent. But previously, I did one that, I don't know, like a bright pink with like yellow and like blue sticks. It was like a hodgepodge of colors, and I loved it. I also love the idea now that over on the Xbox side, they've added different button styles that you can pick as well. It's not just like the default buttons that come with it. You can even get ones that look like the Xbox 360 controller. So I would really want them to go all out on this and have like different buttons. I really loved from the European SNES and then later on the new 3DS, the colored buttons that they had. They're like primary colored face buttons. They were really cool. I'd want the D-pad to be like the C buttons from the N64. So I'd want those to be in yellow. And then I'd like the purple shells from the GameCube, but I'd want one of my sticks, the right-hand stick, to be like a C stick. So I'd want that one in yellow. And I'd want the left one as a white stick. And
these
then
things are going to be a monstrosity.
Yeah, they're going to be a monstrosity. But that's what I really want. And I think it ultimately would look like a GameCube controller, but I think it would be really cool.
That'd be cool. I was also thinking I would love to have one that is like kind of like a vaporwavy, you know, and like have it be like pink, maybe like blue face buttons, or like maybe the buttons are black, but instead of white text, it's blue text. Like, you know, I want it to be like a subtle mix of like pink, purple, blue, you know, not like super, super like two-tony, you know?
Mhm.
See, I like going for it looking like it was made by Fisher-Price. I love that aesthetic. I think it's really cool.
I like it to be.
baby's first Nintendo
The
Switch
Wii U
controller.
is my favorite console.
I really like clean. You know, like that's like why I really like the white Joy-Cons with the OLED
Yeah.
are like really cool. Like I love that.
The other
look.
Yeah, I would love like a stealth one. Have you ever seen the original Nintendo Switch dev kits with the pure black Joy-Cons that they never
No,
released? They then
what?
changed them later on to be the grey colors that we got. But if you have a look, there's pictures online of the original dev kit. I think one of them was by posted by the folks that did Shovel Knight, and they posted a picture of it running on the dev kit, and they're just pure black Joy-Cons, which you never see because they don't make them.
Whoa,
yeah,
these
I
are
remember
fucking
seeing
cool.
those. Yeah,
Yeah, these are neat.
I
I
remember
would definitely
seeing
do that
those.
too. Yeah, I like that a lot. Yeah, it's something I would love to see. I wish PlayStation had one too. Like I think like the design lab is just so cool, and like they're not a lot more expensive than a regular controller. You know, like it's
Mhm.
I think it's like $10 more or something like that. Maybe a little bit more if you do like the monogram and stuff. But I remember being surprised at how affordable they were when I got mine
That's
years
so
ago.
reasonable. That's actually like if
It's
it's just
really.
that much, like just get every controller customized. Like that's what I would do.
Let me see.
I
I did.
remember the 3DS, the new 3DS, the smaller one, that was the far superior like visual design for the new 3DS family of systems. Just the fact that it had the removable face plates, like you could change all of that,
Yeah,
and the Famicom buttons were actually that color instead of like I have the new
they're just the
3DS
black with
XL.
the colored text on, right?
Yeah, it's just the color text, and I was like, This is come on, like if you're gonna take out the faceplates, at least give me the buttons, make those good."
Yeah, they did the same thing back in the DS era. The DSi. The DSi
Mhm.
XL was like the one aimed at mums. So you got it was like really boring. You got that like the red wine color one with the big fat stylus that you got. It was definitely aimed for the touch generations that were just playing Brain Age all the time.
So just
Yeah.
to wow, oh my god, you can put original Xbox controller buttons on this thing now too.
Yeah, it's really cool, isn't it? Do you know they're not the right shape? Like if it was the
Mhm.
like Duke
No,
style
but it is
buttons,
the same. It's
it'd be
like
so fucking cool.
so
Yeah.
just to confirm, regular base cost is $70. It's $10 to do a laser engraved like monogram of up to 16 characters, and then if you want to add rubberized back or side grips, those are each an additional $6. So absolute max, if you like go all out on this thing, you're looking at like $91,
That's
92.
that's so reasonable.
Yeah, I mean, like for $70 for the regular one without any of the bells and whistles is like a regular controller is what $5 cheaper than that, right? Like,
I don't
No, that Xbox controllers are cheaper, right? Aren't they? Because they don't come with the
oh
battery
right, yeah,
inside.
no,
Because you
yeah.
got to buy the battery separately if you want it. So I thought they were cheaper. I thought they were like $50.
Let me see.
I could be wrong though.
I don't know.
There's something else I would really love to see is like a Pro Joy-Con if they're doing this. Like we're talking about Xbox with the Elite controller that they do. I would love like a Pro Joy-Con, similar to the Hori split pad,
Sure.
but
Mhm.
having rumble, having like gyro support, including all the features that you get within the Joy-Con themselves, and then being officially licensed Nintendo products. I think it'd be really, really cool to have that level of ergonomics that I get on the Steam Deck, but I really miss whenever I go back to the Switch, because it's really light and lovely to hold, and I love the Switch. But just being able to have that big grip that you can hold on to, it's just something about it that makes gameplay so much easier. And I don't know about you, Chuy, but I can't play Splatoon handheld. That's one
No.
of those games I need a pro controller to be able to play.
Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah. Don't play that game handheld. It's just play docked, play on a TV, get a
So
pro controller.
I did find this. If you're looking at one that's like on sale, it looks like you can find them for about $50, but they're closer to 60 usually.
Okay, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
The other
So it's
thing,
$10 more then?
Yeah, which is like
it's
really
not
great.
bad.
Like I would
Yeah.
definitely eat that up if
That's
it came
worth
to
it.
Joy-Cons, right? Like easy.
hmm
Especially if you could get them monogrammed. Like that would be really sick.
Yeah. I think if this idea were to go to like one step further, it would be like, oh, finally we can choose a D-pad option instead of the buttons on the
Oh
Oh,
my
left
god,
Joy-Con or something.
yes.
Yeah.
that would be
Because
That would be
then,
amazing.
so good.
And you
yeah,
just couldn't use it for like single player stuff or something. It would be like fine, like whatever.
hmm
Or not
Yeah.
single player, but you know what I mean? Like when you have to
I mean, you probably would
single Joy-Con.
still be able to do it, but it'd just be like, oh, this is a D-pad instead of buttons.
Yeah, where's the buttons? Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I have that. Hori did a product for that as well, and I
Mhm.
reviewed it when we were over at Loot Pots. And it's just not
It's
great. It
It's pretty
feels
trimmed
wrong.
down on the rest of it,
Yeah.
right? Like,
It's way too light. It doesn't have the rumble in there. It doesn't have gyro support. The D-pad's mushy. It doesn't have like a really nice feel to it. So it's really lacking. It was nice to play stuff like Hollow Knight with it, which is what I tried. But I definitely missed the D-pad clickiness that you get from the default Joy-Con. I really love those clicky buttons, even though you can't really rock back and forth like you can with a normal D-pad.
Anyway, we would definitely like this. So get on it, Nintendo, and take more of our money, please.
Even if they don't do this, like, just let me buy all the special edition controllers.
No, they're
yeah.
gone.
'Cause they do it sometimes. Like, you could get the special edition Zelda controller, but the Splatoon 3 one's not going to go on sale. You could get the Mario Red one that they did for the Super Mario Odyssey bundle. You could buy those separately. And the ones that came with the Splatoon 2 bundle, you could buy them, but they were the opposite colors. So if you bought the Splatoon 2 console bundle, you could buy the controllers like they did with the Neon console bundle.
Or you could import them. You could do that.
Or you could import them because they were the opposite colors in different countries for some
Ridiculous.
annoying reason.
Did it come out that way in Europe? I thought it was still like, I forget which controller bundle you got for Splatoon 2. Did you get them separately? Because I think in the
Yeah.
US, we definitely got the second Splatoon 2 separate Joy-Cons that were the opposites.
So I don't know about I'm fairly sure they were opposite because I bought the bundle and I think it's pink on the left, green on the right.
Yeah.
In the UK.
Okay. I really like that color scheme for the
Me too.
Splatoon 2 ones. They were great.
My only gripe with them was that they were two different colors. I wanted just the pinks and just the greens, but
See what you should have just got me to send you some. I'd have sent you another. You could have spent $140 on 2 sets of Joy-Cons.
yeah, right.
Bargain price.
Great.
Bargain.
This is why we need a design lab, Nintendo.
Mhm.
But anyway, let's move on to our next point of discussion today, which is that Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is out this week. As of the time you're listening to this, if you're listening to this the day it drops, for everybody who's not a patron, the game's out tomorrow, which is incredibly exciting. And, I know we had kind of done a topic about like getting hyped for it after the direct and everything like that. But seeing the press reaction to it is something that definitely has my my excitement level even a bit higher. It's got some really, really glowing scores across the board. It's sitting at a 90 on Metacritic, an 86 on OpenCritic. Let me make sure those are still up to date. Okay, it's down to 89 now on Metacritic. But still looking
Terrible
really good.
Game.
And
It's dropped below the 90s. No one wants that.
nobody wants it anymore. But Eurogamer deemed it essential. It got a couple 5 out of 5s. Generally, it seems like, the lower range. The lowest one I've seen is Game Informer with 7.25, which is a real outlier compared to the rest of the scores that you're seeing from bigger outlets.
I think one of the craziest ones was the one that Chuy shared with us, which was RPG Site giving it a 10 out of 10, their first ever 10 out of 10 on their site.
I think it was for Xenoblade games specifically.
Okay.
Yeah, the other two didn't score quite as high.
Yeah, still that's a great place to be for this. I've seen that be the general conversation, is that this is clearly the best one of the franchise, most well realized. Seen a lot of praise for the way that it's written. seem a lot like in the you know, the character dialogue and the story itself. I know that the previous game had a little bit of, you know, criticism for kind of being a little like over sexualized and for having some kind of like voice acting that was a little bit like over the top and in a not attractive way, and just
I think that's probably still going to be the case from
Well,
what I've seen.
I don't
The
know.
voice acting's going to be over the top.
I've seen a lot, but like all anime
I like that about it.
stuff is over the top. I think there's a difference between it like this is just how it is and it being like obnoxious, you know? Because like, I mean, at least for me, there's a line for sure.
Yeah. For
But
me, I'm hoping that this one it sounds like it's nailing what was so great about the first one and what was great about the second one. Because after playing both of them, I was just like, yeah, the story is a lot better in the first one. Overall, really interesting, really cool, like mysteries around the world and what's going on and everything. And then the second one, the combat is just way more fun. It's just overall like a more fun game to me. And it feels like they've got both of those elements really working together in this one.
so the one I don't want to talk about it too much because obviously the game's out tomorrow, and you know we'll be talking about it all next week and everything. But I guess before it's here, I've been talking and thinking about this game a lot lately, and I'm excited to talk about it with you, Chewy, because I am like so interested to see if I like this game at all. Like whether if it strikes a chord with me or not, or if it's gonna just like if it's something that I bounce off of. And I know for a long time we were like, oh, like, is Steve going to drink the Kool-Aid? Are we going to be able to get him to bite? And now that we've seen that the game takes between 70 and 100 hours to beat, I don't think there's a chance in hell Steve's going to touch this game.
RPG site said it was 140 hours plus if you're a completionist.
For completionist run, yeah.
There's just zero. There is zero chance I'm investing that much time in another game this year. I've spent so much time in Elden Ring, and we're doing the Persona 5 Game Club when that comes out later this year and it comes to Switch.
But this is out now.
There's no way.
You could play it now, though, Steve.
I mean, the second one was like 250 hours for a completionist run. So
but just don't complete it. Just don't do completionist. Just do minimum. It's only 70.
I'm struggling to finish Stray at the moment. I'm that time starved that I can't finish a 7-hour game. How do you think I'm going to cope with 140 hours?
I don't know, Steve. You got to just get good. I don't know. You know, it's a rookie number.
Skip all the cutscenes. Is there a skip cutscene button? I could do that, and then I won't suffer through the bad acting.
If you're skipping cutscenes, there's no point for you to play this game. It's like it's a story game.
I know.
Come on.
It is pretty story heavy, but I don't know. I feel like there's definitely a lot of gameplay in between the cutscenes, but there's also a lot of very long cutscenes. Like you'll get 10-hour YouTube videos of like, here are all the cutscenes for this game.
So where are you at now, Chuy? I know we've like been dancing around like, are you going to be excited? Are you going to be burnt out on Xenoblade because you just played 1 and 2 again this year or finished them? Are you excited to plunk it down day one? Like, do you have that hype?
I'm pretty excited now, I'd say. I think I finished Xenoblade 2 right at the beginning of this month, and I was like, I was done. Like, yes, I had a good time and everything, but I was like, no, I can't touch this. That might have been like a mix of me getting through COVID and just like the association of that game during me being sick. And I was just like, no, this does not make me feel good right now. I'm done. But now that I'm like through that and have had some time away from it, I'm like, okay, cool. Yeah, I'm excited. It sounds like it's going to be a lot of the things that I really liked about both games put together. So that's got me going forward. But I will say I am still pretty excited for Digimon Survive, whatever is going on with that game. So, but I think I will start with like Xenoblade when I pick those two up.
Yeah, I'm really excited to jump into that one. And it's funny because like you bring up Digimon and it's like, what's going on with that, right? This like it's out in, as of right now, a day and about 6 hours, and there are no reviews. There are seemingly nobody has codes. Like, it's not looking good, gang. It's not a good sign.
Is that a thing that Bandai do traditionally? They like hold it to the last minute. Didn't they do something similar with Elden Ring?
I'm not sure.
That might
I'm trying to,
be true.
and I'm trying to remember I think a lot of people got Elden Ring earlier though. Like I think they probably had codes out like a month
They had
before.
codes, but I remember a load of people alluding to it on Twitter. It was like, oh, I can just say that playing a certain game on Steam Deck is a very good experience, but they couldn't say what game it was. Like they weren't even allowed to talk about if it was any good.
Mm-hmm.
It was just like all that allusion to it, and I don't know if that's just Bandai Namco's strategy, just to wait
And
till the
this
last
one,
minute.
I'm trying to think too of Tales of Arise, how that went. And I do remember there was at least like a demo out for that one before it came out, maybe around the same time. But yeah, there's literally like nothing on this game outside of really beautiful screenshots.
Yeah, and
That's
like
it.
they released like some like they like talked
There's
about
a
some of the
bunch of trailers.
features and stuff, and like yeah, like we have a bit of an idea of some of the other, you know, like the social sim stuff and how some of that stuff influences the game and everything, but like not much.
So,
Not much for a
uh,
game that's out in
Mm-hmm.
days.
well, it's out as of the time of recording today in Japan.
Yeah.
I think it's their strategy. Looking at the Elden Ring reviews, they came out late on the 23rd of February. The game
Okay.
released on the 25th of February. So I think we'll probably see reviews as of this going out today on
I hope so.
Thursday.
I mean, I really hope this game comes together. I know it's had a really tortured development cycle. It seems like such a good idea. I really hope that it's good. I'm a little nervous, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
But we'll see. We'll know soon enough, right? Like by the time we sit down and chat again, we will know. So we'll talk about it next week. But speaking of Monster Tamer franchises that are good, Pokemon Legends Arceus is Nintendo Japan's most sold game in the first half of 2022. The game seemingly doing really well, which I think is probably not a big surprise, right? Like it reviewed fairly well. We know it was popular, but it was definitely cool to see it, you know, dominate this list and with some other games on it that, you know, definitely could have made a similar wave or a bigger one, right? Like the rest of the list is Kirby. So this is an interesting thing too. I'm looking at the Japanese.
I can't believe number 5. I really can't believe.
I'm looking at the Japanese Nintendo site and the translation for Kirby. It's Kirby Discovery of the Stars. Totally different.
Yeah.
Totally different name. But anyway, Forgotten World's number 2. Nintendo Switch Sports is number 3. Monster Hunter Rise is number 4. Coming in at number 5, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Somehow. There are still folks that don't own a copy of this game somehow.
Oh my god.
Hell, even Breath of the Wild is number 10. Like, that's crazy.
I gotta say that the top 4 is probably what I expected in the order I expected it.
Yeah?
Yeah, because like Monster Hunter's just had a huge DLC.
You said the top 10.
Top 4.
Okay.
The top 4 is probably like what I expected.
Yeah.
Like top 10, no way.
Yeah.
Like Among Us in there, like I wouldn't have guessed that would still be a top seller.
I don't know what the hell this one game is. Number 8 is it like doesn't have a name and it just says defeat monsters and it's like a whole sentence.
Strong swords and armors.
Yeah, and get strong swords and armor. Do not give up, even if you die and become stronger. I believe in the day when the heroes defeat the Demon King. Okay, sure.
Wow.
Great.
What's a DRPG? Does anyone know?
DRPG? No idea.
Yeah, that's what it comes up on the page. If you click through, it says it's a DRPG.
Couldn't tell you. But on the note of this, I'm glad to see this. I really loved Legends, and I think, you know, Chuy, I know you felt the same way, where it really was just like a breath of fresh air, and it was like the most fun I've had with the single player Pokemon game in a while. And I am not necessarily surprised to see that it connected with folks in the way that it did, because I really do think it was really good. But I think the thing that is kind of on my mind now, right, and we've been asking this since they announced Scarlet and Violet, is like, what, like, are we going to get more Legends games? Like, you know, like, especially considering how well they're selling, like, you'd think that they'd want to keep that rolling and have, if you
But
can have.
Are they selling because it's like just another mainline Pokemon in the same way that the like Sword and Shield did? Because like you can't compare it to Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, because those are like, you know, a lot of chibi remakes that people weren't as invested in as this. You know, you go and show like the next big thing for Pokemon, and then you kind of back it up with Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. It's kind of like, well, okay, if I'm gonna play one, I'll wait for the mainline cool new open world experience.
Yeah, but I mean, a Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl sold really well too, though. So like, I think my thought is, right, like, why wouldn't you want to replicate this success? Because say Scarlet and Violet come out and hit and are just as successful, you now have 3 Pokemon franchises that are just coming out and doing well. Like if you sustain Legends, right, and you have Legends, whatever the next, you know, mainline generation is, where you get a new Dex and new Pokemon, and maybe they do DLC again and they go through that whole thing while they work on the next Legends. And they've got, you know, I forget the name of the studio, but the studio doing their remake of Black and White in that like chibi style that's cheaper and quicker to produce. And all of them are multi-million-dollar, you know, bestsellers. Like, I'm sure they're pretty happy about that. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'd like one.
The studio is Ilka, by the way, and like
yeah.
Like they're also developing the Nier port, right?
Oh, they are? Interesting.
Yeah.
I am worried that I don't know if I'm gonna like Scarlet and Violet as much as I liked Arceus or Arceus, whatever
I'm really worried.
Nintendo wants to call it.
Yeah, I'm worried I might not either.
It's definitely Arceus, because it's not an Arse phone. Like, you pick up the Arc phone in the game.
Nah, it's Arceus. I don't care.
Oh, yeah, with your Arse phone.
It's changed. But I've actually been picking up that game like a little bit every day this past week, mostly because I'm like, oh, I can probably log in for 30 minutes, find a shiny, and then catch that and be done. You know, just slowly chip away at my shiny decks or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm like, I feel like this game is just fun. Like, people are really liking it. They're connecting with like what the gameplay is for Pokemon going forward. I know there's like, obviously it's missing a lot of the battle type of things that Pokemon has been big for, but I think more than anything, this one has really changed the exploration and the collecting in ways that I think that needed to happen. I have not been inspired to complete the Pokedex since like Gen 3 or so. After that, I was just like, there are too many dang Pokemon and this is a pain. I'm just going to play through it, catch whatever, and get on with my life. But this one was like, oh man, I actually want to catch multiples of Pokemon, and it's not a pain because I don't have to interact with them. I can just throw a Pokeball, run away. Like, that's it.
Which is why I liked Let's Go. I gotta say, like, Let's Go did it for me, and then being able to replicate that was the one thing I liked about Arceus. I think the story I didn't really care for, the environments I didn't really care for, but if you can get hooked into that loop of like throwing balls and sneaking up on them, and you know, it was a fun loop.
I really hope that isn't gone in Scarlet and Violet. I know we haven't seen it yet, and it's like,
I kind of think it is gone.
I don't know. I really don't, you know, and I think it could go either way, and I guess we'll see. But I think if that is gone, that's going to be a really huge bummer, and definitely something that people are going to complain about. And
I think it's gone because this game was like probably sealed into what it was going to be before that game came out, and they saw Arceus as like an experimentation of this new thing. They weren't sure if it was going to land. It's come out, it has landed, so maybe the next game's the one where we go back to that gameplay, or they reserve that for future Legends games, and that becomes like, oh, I like these games, these are the games I like to play where I can run around and explore and throw the balls without having to do those levels of interaction, so I'm going to pick up the Legends games. You mentioned like they've got three types of games they produce. I'd really like to see them add a fourth. Like, I want 2D Pokemon back. Like, seeing Coromon come out, and like I know you told me about it, and Brandy's been talking about it. Like, that game looks like what I would want to play from a Pokemon game. So I kind of think if I'm going to pick a Pokemon game up again this year, it's probably going to be Coromon.
Yeah, that one looks fun.
It's interesting to me that you feel that way because like it has all this stuff that you say you don't like about Pokemon in it. Like it's not just about like catching and that loop. It's like the battling and all that stuff is like
Yeah, but it's actually pretty and like it looks nice
that's true.
and I can imagine like looking at the trailers and things. Like I kind of feel like the battles are a little bit more advanced than you would get from a Pokemon game. Like they seem to be a little bit more. I mean, I can't say because I've never played it.
It's like from a AI experience, I would imagine you're probably right, but
your next Pokemon game needs to be Ooblets. That's it. That's
Oh yeah, I'm waiting for Ooblets to come to Steam and then come into Steam and come into Switch as a 1.0 and then I'm picking it up immediately.
So before we move on from Pokemon, we've got a couple questions here from Trendy Brendy. And I wanted to jump into this now. So Trendy Brendy wrote in and said, how many trailers left for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet do you think? I'm thinking just 2. One during the World Champions and then the launch trailer. Maybe one more if the trailer shown at Worlds is more on the technical/competitive side of things like the Sword and Shield Worlds trailer was. I know lots of people are just begging for more information, and while I'd like to know version exclusives and quality of life improvements personally, I liked going into Sword and Shield seeing basically only one new Pokemon for the first time on the first few routes. Certainly more fun than knowing all but like 3 Pokemon in Gen 7. I agree with that for sure. I think with Gen 7, there was like they were announcing a new Pokemon on Twitter like every other day. And it just was like, it felt like you had seen so much before the game actually came out. So I hope you're right about that. I don't know, though. I think 2 seems low to me, but it's also like the game is not that far off. So you might be right. Because it's like Nintendo's been a little bit more tight-lipped lately. And obviously Pokemon Company, like has their own kind of cadence when it comes to PR and everything. Like
they've got issues. Everything leaks for them.
Yeah.
Every single time.
There's already stuff that has potentially leaked, right? And it's like we don't know how true all of it is, but like some of it seems pretty real. So it's like
UFO shots, basically.
Yeah, it's like there's definitely going to be a leak well before the game comes out. But it's like it's only 4 months away, 5 months away. Not 5. And I think the idea that like we've got 1 or 2 more deep dive type trailers and then maybe a handful of other smaller like Twittery announcements here and there. I think that makes sense.
They'll do a handful of like 30-second ads and stuff because they've got to have it on TV and all that sort of thing.
And like think about what it was like for Arceus. Like that was basically what happened with that game, right? Like we didn't see that much of it before it came out, and we went into it with a lot of secrets left to discover, and like lots of stones that were kind of unturned yet. So I think less is probably the right guess, right?
Yeah.
But
I think the challenge with Pokemon is like it's been roughly the same thing for how many years are they at now? 25? Is that the anniversary we had?
Yeah.
It was, yeah.
25. So I feel like there's like not too much that changes for Pokemon. It's like a little bit of a snail's pace, little bits and pieces change over time, and but it's still like kind of fundamentally the same thing. So for me, I agree with Trendy in the sense of like I don't really need to know all the Pokemon. I want to go into it and be like, oh, you're here. Like I don't even need to know like which Pokemon are returning and stuff. I'm like, oh, cool.
Yeah.
This one's back. This one's new. All of these things, because to me, that's like the fun part at this point with Pokemon for me, where I get to find cool new Pokemon that I can use. I don't have to catch them all because I'm over that part of life. I don't need to collect them all.
Are you? You're working on a shiny Dex.
Yeah, because that's fun. But
that's my point.
It doesn't work
if they
like
do
that,
it right, you do
if
like
they
it.
do it right, I will be into that.
And they
will.
They'll
have to. Yeah, we'll have to see.
I'm really worried that this game is going to be like two steps forward, 1 step back. And the 1 step back is going to be the Arceus.
The step you don't want them to take. It's always that one.
But that's the step they did from Let's Go to Sword and Shield. We had Pokemon in the overworld, and then they disappeared. And they were only in like the wild area, right? But you had to interact with them before.
There's both. Yeah. They have the random encounters and that. Forget the random encounters. I want to see and hear shinies out in the wild. That's exciting to me.
Yeah, I
Do you
agree.
think have we seen like mounts as well? Like, are we going to have the level of
There-
traversal that we had
I don't
in
know
Arceus?
if we've seen them, but I don't know. I think we'll get them back.
Mhm.
Because it's just like it's this Arceus wasn't the first game that had them, right? Let's Go had them too.
Mhm.
Not to that extent where you could like choose. I want to fly. I want to climb. I want to swim.
Yeah, you could
Not like at any point in the map though.
with the riding and the flying. Yeah, you had the Charizard that you could fly around on, and then there was the
Oh, okay.
Arcanine that you could ride.
Mhm.
I don't feel like they really gave you much though. It wasn't to the extent
Yeah,
of
because
like
it's all still like
It
sectioned.
was just a different
off,
kind of
you know?
game, though, right? Like it's like it
Mhm.
wasn't a game that was like about exploring an open area. So like, yeah, they were more limited. But my point is that like you've been able to ride Pokemon in 2 games now, and the only one that you couldn't was the one that you just made the point, right? Was Sword and Shield. You took 2 steps forward, 1 step back. That was one of the steps
and I
back.
really think it's because of the dev cycles where they cement in this is the feature set, this is what we're working towards, this is what we're going to get done.
You can't respond to
They really-
feedback until the game
Exactly.
after the next game, which sucks, but
Yeah.
it is what it is.
Mhm.
It's the same problem that Supermassive has with the Dark Pictures anthology. We talked about that on
Yeah.
Flip Screen not that long
Yeah.
ago, where it's like, well, that one sucked. Oh well, the 2 from now will be good because we'll be able to take some feedback.
But it's so strange because like you look at the way movies are produced though, and like they don't really have that same thing happen, and like they make movies.
Yeah, but
I'm thinking
I
like
don't
the It movies, right? They were like made in tandem. They made like part 1 and part 2 together. They didn't have any feedback come
Well, part 2's not very
between
good.
them.
that's a very different production process, though, too,
Yeah.
where games are pretty hands-on from everybody and very collaborative the entire way through, from like
Mhm.
pre to post and everything. Whereas,
I think it comes more from like on the Pokemon side, it's more risk aversion. Like they're never sure as to, well, we've got this idea, and rather than just committing for it for a couple of games, it's, well, we'll put it in, we'll experiment, and we'll see what people think, but the next game won't have it, and then it might come back in the future.
Well,
and
and
it's kind of, it becomes that thing that you've spoken about many times, P, where it's just like every game seems to have a gimmick because they never really like cement that this is what the game franchise is going to be going forwards. It always comes back out again.
I think it's because we're used to games being iterative, right? And I think that's like a way in which like they're different from other mediums too, right? Is that like when you're talking about like a video game, like a sequel, right? Like the expectation is generally like, okay, cool. Well, it's going to be all this, like everything we had from the first game and everything we learned from that first game should be taken here, and then we learn from the mistakes that were made, the feedback that was received, what did people respond to, what did people not respond to, and you iterate and, improve, right? And like because Pokemon has this like weird cycle and it's like, you are working on kind of games simultaneously and stuff like that, like it's impossible for it to work that way. And I think you're always going to have that feeling of like, oh yeah, like like this thing got taken out because there wasn't time to iterate on this idea and add a new idea, right? So like, contests are gone now, right? And now we're doing this gimmick instead, right? Or bases are gone and now here's this new gimmick and now here, whatever, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, and
It felt like they focused like those gimmicks too, as like the anime used to run very hand in hand with the games, right? And so like in the animes, it'd be like, oh, these contests and stuff are a really big thing in this region that we're visiting, and so that became a part of the game and the show in some way. But with these new ones, with them kind of going off in their different directions with the two, I think, I don't know, maybe we will see some like newer ideas pop up and them commit to other things. But
yeah.
thus far, I don't think we've seen it. I think they've just been taking baby steps toward that. But
Mm-hmm.
who knows?
Yeah, and it's always like, is this going to be the one? Is this going to be the one? And it's like it's never quite there, right? Like there's always something that's a little off or something that's missing or what have you. And like even with Arceus, which I loved, right? It's like I do want more battles. Like I want more trainers to fight now that I have this team built out. Like I want more to do aside from the thing I already like doing, And like it sucks because I think when you look back at some of the older games, like they were a lot more dense. There was more for you to do and more for you to explore, and like there was a commitment to there being other things for you to do in the world besides whatever the main thing is for you to do. And it feels like a lot of that has been kind of stripped back little by little.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. We'll see. But I do have some cautious optimism for this game, I think, coming off of Arceus because of how much I liked Arceus, right? Like, I went into Arceus being like, I'm nervous this is not going to hit, and it's one of my favorite Pokemon games now. So I hope that I come off of Scarlet and Violet feeling more akin to that than the way I felt coming off of Sword and Shield, where I was like, oh yeah, this is almost what I want.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I think if the feature sets that you like from Arceus isn't in there, and I think part of it might just be Pokemon fatigue, that it's yet another massive Pokemon game coming out in the same year. I do think that's going to be to its detriment for a lot of people, especially when you've got another huge JRPG from Nintendo with Xenoblade. It's just like, how much can you really cram in within the same year? And if you want to play Persona, come into a Nintendo console for the first time, you really going to pick up Pokemon as well? Like, there's a lot it's got to compete with.
That's the
this
thing,
time
though,
around.
Steve. They won't pick it up as well. They'll pick up Pokemon and not the other thing.
I know. And it's just, yeah.
Probably anyway. I mean, I don't know, right? Because I think if RC is coming out earlier this year and all those other things that you just identified do end up impacting this game's bottom line at all, maybe that'll make them rethink timelines and stuff. But I just don't see it happening. I feel like Pokemon is like too big to fail. You know?
I feel like people think that about a lot of franchises, though, and then, you know, I kind of felt like Sonic was too big to fail for a long time.
Sonic is too big to fail. Like, because again, right, you're rolling your eyes and everything, but it's like, well, okay, but look, when's the last Sonic game that underperformed financially?
I don't know, but I can't imagine it that they're selling on the same levels of like a Pokemon. Like, Pokemon is massive.
Let's find out. But I'm telling you, right?
I didn't remember the last game. Like, what was it? Colors?
That's the thing, right? It's like critically, it doesn't, like, critics' opinions on a game don't matter as much as how much it sells. You know?
No, true. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I get that, and I don't think the critics' opinion will matter one iota for Pokemon. I do think the time of year it comes out and the fact that everyone's probably still playing a Pokemon game, if it's the best-selling game for half a year,
Yeah.
like, they're probably in the middle of playing Arceus. It's just like, do I need to play another one?
I can't.
Probably.
Capcom doesn't put out numbers the way that Nintendo does, so it's really hard to find like hard numbers.
Mm-hmm.
But let's see. Well, there is an article here that says that the Sonic franchise hit 1.38 billion combined sales last year, that's pretty high. That's a lot of games.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of games. But yeah,
But how many sales of those is just people buying the original game a million times? Because I know I've bought that original game like 4 times in my life.
Yeah, but I don't know though, dude. I think you underestimate how well Sonic games sell, right? Like, there's a huge community of Sonic fans, and kids like Sonic games even if they suck. You know, like, it doesn't matter. Think about how many games you bought and played as a kid that were bad that you remember fondly, right? Like, it's like nostalgia and being young it's a hell of a combination, you know, like,
Mm-hmm.
and I think like the thing is that like Pokemon games are not bad either, right? Like, Arceus was a good game. It was just,
to me, they're just like
underbaked.
they never reach where they could be, and it's really maddening to me because like I see the potential of what Nintendo can put out outside of the Pokemon franchises. Like, Xenoblade Chronicles is like a prime example. It's like got to be the most polished game on the Switch at this point. It's 140 hours long. It seemingly came out of nowhere.
And it'll sell probably,
and it's reviewing like 9s and 10s. Yeah.
But it'll sell 10% of what Pokemon does. Right?
I know. And it feels like the franchises that do really, really well, some of them are like super polished, right? Like Mario, for example, has the most care and attention put into it possible. And I think a lot of that probably comes down to the fact that it's Nintendo's baby. And then you have the Pokemons and the Sonics, where it's just it's never quite there. They're like sometimes phoning it in a little bit just to get it across the line.
Yeah, like I mean, right? Like it's just like Fire Emblem Three Houses has sold less than 3 million copies. They put out 2 Pokemon
which
games
is a travesty.
within 3 months of each other that combined sold almost 10 times as many copies. You know?
Yeah, I know. I don't get it.
So it's tough. It's tough. I think like as long as that machine is still running, like they're gonna just doing it.
I wish they would slow the machine down, like other annual franchises have done, like Call of Duty, for example. I want them to spend a little bit more time, and this was the perfect year to do it because they'd already put a Pokemon game out.
I know.
Been like, okay, let's spend another 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
They could have just been like, well, that's the mainline Pokemon game for this year. The next one's being pushed till like they could have even pushed it back to next autumn if they wanted to.
I'll tell you what though, man, it's just like I feel like they're like sharks. Like they smell the blood in the water because it's like, yeah, we could wait or we could put it out and put out our third $60 boxed game that sells over 10 million copies in a span of 18 months. Like, I'm sure they're doing fucking backflips over there. Just like, holy shit, they're going to buy another one? You know, like, they're fucking swimming in money over there. Jesus Christ. Like, and it's like, you look at, like, Arceus reviewed well critically, despite its flaws, right? Like, and it sold really well. It's like, why slow down? Like, as much as we want things to be better, it's like, they ain't bad enough to stop showing up. Mm-hmm. And that's the problem.
No, I know, but even when they were like rating badly, not selling as well, right? They were still carrying on and pushing on with like the feature sets that you didn't enjoy, like the ones where it handheld you the whole time.
A lot of those sold well though. The worst period for Pokemon financially, I think, are some of the better games. What are you gonna do?
Yeah, and you've got to worry that they look at that data and go, well, we won't try and replicate that again because it didn't sell very well.
Worth it, yeah. Because those costs only go up too. Like there's more people working on more things, more time going toward all that stuff, and it's just like, all right, let's cut those costs. We don't need them, obviously. Let's just keep doing what we're doing.
Yep, that's the name of the game. All right, let's jump into our talking point for the week. There was a bit of a conversation that was making the rounds this week because Bayonetta's creator had a little interview where he was discussing the fact that, like, I'm sorry, his name is Hideki Kamiya, and was saying that Nintendo had never, like, asked for them to censor Bayonetta at all, and this was kind of like asked in response to the naive angel mode that was introduced a while ago, which is essentially a mode that will make the game like a little bit less
risque.
Yeah, right. Like it's like Bayonetta like is not as
she's actually wearing clothes.
Yeah, right. Like more
some
of
scenes,
more of her body is covered, right? Because it's like even like the
there are literally some scenes where she's not wearing anything, and it's just like the magic
hair,
that's
like,
covering up.
Yeah,
and like those scenes now have her in clothes, right. So it means that if you're playing this around like family or on a bus, you can actually play the game.
Right, and so this was a tweet that got translated by Nintendo Everything. So take the translation with a grain of salt, not an official translation. But he essentially said that this like Nintendo has never like influenced that aspect of the game, and that the only thing that they ever suggested was like the Link costume for the port of the original Bayonetta and Bayonetta 2, and like little like cute things like that. And he said that like they have had disagreements from time to time, but they've been open to listening to him, and they've been really supportive of what Bayonetta is and everything. And I think it's very interesting because I think if you had, I don't know, like years ago, right before this association got cemented, right? Like when the original Bayonetta came out. If you had been like, "Oh, like what what franchise is Nintendo gonna to buy into and support and make their own?" It's like nobody would have guessed Bayonetta, right? Like it feels
No.
totally antithetical
Mhm.
to everything Nintendo's brand is, right? You think Nintendo, you think family friendly, you think all ages, you know, you think about things that are appropriate for kids, but that adults love too, right? Bayonetta is a M-rated franchise straight up and down, right? It's sexy, it's lewd, it's, you know, risque, it's all these things. And like it's so odd.
And like sweary and violent
Yeah, yeah, she's
and
got
like
guns and you know, like yeah, like it's literally the antithesis of what you
yeah.
think of when you think Nintendo, Mario, whatever, right? Like
And you know, I think that just comes from the fact that Nintendo needed something in the Wii U era, and like they were trying to shift their image a little bit around that time. Like it was like, you know, one of the first games they ever showed off on the Wii was like Zombie U game from Ubisoft, right? That later got ported to all of the other consoles.
yeah.
And they started that process, I think, all the way back on the GameCube, because they had that image of, oh, we're the family-friendly console.
But then
Because
they
they
went
missed
back
out on
on
a
it
bunch of
though.
games on the N64,
Like
because they had like Resident Evil they bought in. That was an exclusive franchise to
right.
the GameCube for the first time. Those are obviously like M-rated games. We had those, and then we shift back with the
The
Wii to
Wii,
that
yeah.
family-friendly image. But I think that was really only because of what it was. That they would have liked to have had the games like Call of Duty and things like that on there. You just couldn't really play them with a Wii remote very well, and the games that did come, like I remember playing Call of Duty Modern Warfare on that console, and it's a totally different game. It's a completely different game. It's not the same game at all.
I'm trying
Yeah.
to think of any games that Nintendo would have published that were M, but I'm just coming up with T for teens here.
Yeah, and that's the thing is I don't think they've done any others. And you know, it's interesting because like to your point, Steve, I think it was probably just like an opportunity, right? Like and they took it. But you know, to double down on it, right? And be like, yeah, we're gonna save Bayonetta 2, right? Like people I think maybe forget, like they swooped in and saved that game and made it happen.
Yeah.
You know, they're now working on 3, which was one of the flagship things they announced with the announcement of the Switch of like, there's going to be a Bayonetta 3 on this thing. And, you know, she's in Smash and, you know, she's like very heavily associated with Nintendo now, right? Like you do think of Bayonetta as a Nintendo franchise. And it's interesting to me just because it's so different. And I wanted to open up the conversation because I wonder how y'all feel about the idea of like Nintendo doing more of this. Like, should Nintendo have more franchises that are aimed at different age groups, right? Like, obviously, there are some, you know, like I think you might think of like Metroid as being something that's a little more T for teen, right?
Mhm.
I'd love to see that get up to M though, like a Metroid Prime M-rated game. I think would be amazing. I just don't know that it's ever going to get there.
I guess the question, like for me, with like the Nintendo franchises going for the M, it's like I'd certainly be interested in what an M-rated Metroid looks like, but I wonder like what changes about that, right? Like I guess you could lean more into horror and more into things that are a little more intense, but like I don't really feel like it needs like to be sexy or sweary or any of those kinds of things, right? But like I would be interested to see Nintendo either explore that with maybe like a Metroid or something like that. But I think I'd be even more interested to see them like incubate new IP that are aimed at teens or aimed at an adult audience and not trying to make something that is all ages, that is family friendly, because they already have so much of that in their portfolio, right? And it would be interesting to see like what other IP would they be interested in incubating, or does anybody who works at Nintendo have an original idea for something that skews a little more mature?
I kind of yeah. My wonder with this is always like how much they look at money in these types of decisions. Like I know for movies in general, people really try to push for like a PG-13 versus an R rating because they're just going to drop in how much revenue they pull in from movie tickets that are sold and all that. So with games, I kind of wonder if there's like statistics on that in particular, like how much do your sales drop when something moves from T to M? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's
Yeah, I
At
interesting.
could
that
see
point, it's
that.
like people need like certain permissions to buy those games on their own at the store, and they have to be a certain age to get that.
What's
So
what's always fascinating me though is because is that the ratings are so different from region to region.
yeah,
Like we have the PEGI system still in the UK, which has some additional like I guess tiers that you don't have. So we
Mhm.
have like PEGI 16 and then PEGI 18, and then you would have, I think there's like PEGI 12, which I guess would be a T rating. So you kind of missed that middle tier.
Yeah.
There's no like T plus tier, which could be where you could probably categorize a lot of games that just get lumped up to M. And I did a bit of research.
I think there used to be kind of an in between one
They had
because I
E
was just looking at Fire Emblem,
E10
like
plus. You
E plus,
remember that?
yeah, like
Yeah.
E10 plus, like 10 and up kind of thing,
Yeah, we did have
just
that. That was like
before
it was
hitting the teen.
pre-teens. Yeah. But
Mhm.
even that, right? Like it's like I don't know about your experience with that, Chewy, but like I
Didn't
have
matter to
been
me.
I have been stopped buying an M-rated game maybe twice ever, and I've bought a
Mhm.
lot of M-rated games when I was underage. You know, like there was honestly, I remember the funniest thing was the one of the two times it ever happened to me. I was either a week away from being 18 or I had just turned 18, but I didn't have a driver's license yet. And I like had no
Mhm.
identification. So I couldn't prove that I was 18. And like the guy was like, "Oh, I can't tell you this." And I was like, "Are you fucking kidding me?" And I had another friend with me and I was like, "Hey, Alex, can you buy this? Thank you." You know, it's like,
Oh, then that's illegal in the UK, and they're not allowed to sell it to you still.
you know, so what are you going to do,
Once
right?
you've been challenged, you can't sell it.
Yeah.
And you should try living here with a baby face like me. I get ID'd for energy drinks, so it's
You gotta
Wait,
agree.
ID for
it's-
energy drinks?
That's why I grew
yeah.
the
You have to
beard,
look
bud.
25. You have to look 25 in order to buy energy.
Nobody
drinks,
cards
that's
me
what I do.
anymore. I got the beard. They're like,
Interesting.
you have a full beard. There's no way that you can't.
Yeah, we have this policy. We have this policy called Think 25, where you have to look 25 in order to buy anything that's age restricted, and like
Yeah.
they restrict energy drinks to over 16-year-olds.
So funny. So really quickly, Chewy and Steve, you were just talking about the difference between like M-rated and obviously we know that tracks in Hollywood. With games, it's interesting. I don't think it's as one-to-one because I'm looking at, and granted, this is the Wikipedia list, so grain of salt, but the best-selling video games of all time, right, in terms of units sold, right? The top 20 are almost all they are either E for everyone or they are rated M. Like those are the ones, right? Because it's like looking at the list.
I want to see what the PEGI ratings are then, because I would imagine that some of those will slot into 16 quite nicely.
I don't think so, because they are Minecraft, Grand Theft Auto 5, Tetris, Wii Sports, PUBG, Super Mario Brothers, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, Pokemon Red/Green/Blue/Yellow, Terraria, Red Dead Redemption 2, Wii Fit, Tetris, Pac-Man, The Witcher 3, Animal Crossing New Horizons, Mario Kart Wii, Wii Sports Resort, New Super Mario Brothers, New Super Mario Brothers Wii, and then in a four-way tie for 20th place is Call of Duty Modern Warfare, Diablo 3, Human Fall Flat, and Elder Scrolls 5 Skyrim. And then 24 and 25 are Pokemon Gold, Silver Crystal, and Duck Hunt. Breath of the Wild at number 26, pretty crazy. So interestingly enough,
what is Elder Scrolls there? Because Diablo 3 is PEGI 16, Elder Scrolls is PEGI 16.
those are M.
Okay, so I feel like you're missing a tier. Like they should not be M-rated games. I don't think.
Yeah, I mean,
and those things shift pretty regularly, I think, too. So.
Oh yeah, like I think back to like Conker's Bad Fur Day being like an 18 rated game, and like that. There's no
that's
fucking
an
way
M,
these
I
days
think.
that would be an 18.
No, it would. Yeah, it would. Are you kidding me? There's so many.
No, in the UK, there's no way that would be an 18. That would
in
lump down to 16.
What do they base it on? Is it just based on violence?
No, there's like a bunch of categories. Like
that game is like
swearing.
Okay, well,
swearing and sexualization.
Okay, then it would be
like
rated
16.
M, dude. Do you remember that
That's
game?
usually 16.
Oh, those.
No, like that's 16. And we
Okay.
have like for movie classifications, we have a 15 as well, which is like you can have like a certain number of swears, you can have a certain amount of sex.
I was gonna say
things like that.
Because ours is like that too, where it's like I think in PG-13s you can get away with like one hard swear. But
you can have loads in a 15.
But like in Conker's Bet, he says "fuck" like every other sentence, you know. Like the beginning of the game
that's
is
everybody in the UK. That's everybody in the UK.
Though. Yeah, in the beginning of it, he wakes up and he's like in the middle of a bender and he's like fucking drunk and like that game is extremely vulgar.
Yeah, I think that's like a cultural thing. Where
here
in the US,
right. It's a 15 in the UK. It was actually rated a 15.
You were gonna say Chuy.
Oh yeah, I was just saying like here in the US, like swear words, sex, all of that's like big no for media markets at least. Whereas I'm sure that's very different. Violence here is just like, oh yeah, everything can be violent, whatever. It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
I know.
I feel like that would be reclassified as a teen. I really do. I think it would be.
That's so funny. Conker had a controversy too, though, because like part of the problem was that like people were seeing it and thinking it was like a Banjo-Kazooie, right? And like not really.
Oh, it's
Which
definitely
played
not,
a lot like it.
Right, yeah, but you bought that for your 8-year-old, you'd be like, oh shit, no, like what happened?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I did a bit of research because I know you couldn't find one, Chuy, but Nintendo published one other mature rated game. Do either of you know what it is? It was on the GameCube. And apparently it was the first game released by Nintendo after Iwata became president. The producers on the game include Shigeru Miyamoto and Iwata.
Wow. Okay, let me ask you a question. Is it a like Nintendo owned franchise or was it a non-Nintendo franchise that they published?
It is owned by Nintendo now. It was developed by Silicon Knights, but they own the IP now.
Ooh.
And they cancelled the sequel.
What the fuck? Oh, this is gonna kill me because you're gonna say it and I'm gonna be kicking myself. Like all those pieces
I don't know if either of you will know. I've seen videos on this game and I know of it. I've never played it. It's a survival horror game that follows similar mechanics of Resident Evil.
Oh god, it's fuck, I know what this game is. It's not Fatal Frame. It's not Fatal Frame. It's the one that like turns the volume up and down on the TV and all that shit, right?
Yeah, Eternal Darkness.
Yes!
Okay.
Fuck! Oh, damn it. That was like right on the tip of my... Like when you said Silicon Knights, I was like, wait, that sounds really familiar. I've never played it, but I've heard people talk about it. Like,
yeah, we should play this. Like Nintendo's only other M-rated game.
Only M-rated game.
Well, we should do a series where we're going to play every M-rated game Nintendo's ever released, and it's this and Bayonetta 2. And it's like, all right, cool.
I mean, it gets a 92 on Metacritic.
Yeah,
so I would like to see what it's like.
Apparently, it hasn't aged very well, and not because it's like it just the things that it did that were impressive are like not as novel now, but.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I know that's one of the big things is that like you remember how like back in the day like every TV had like that same volume thing where it was like green and it was like the bars, like it would do that in the game. It would like turn the volume down and it wasn't actually connected to your television set. It was just making you think that like, oh, like why is this happening?
And now they're all different, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like there's stuff like that wouldn't hit the same way as it would have contextually at the time, you not knowing and being like, oh fuck, like having a moment where the game tricks you and thinks that like you think your remote's haunted, like that's pretty cool.
It's things like that. I remember, I think Kelsey Lewin was tweeting about this. She's one of the co-directors of the Video Game History Foundation, but she was talking about like how a lot of people think of game preservation as like, oh, bringing every game to some newer console and kind of thing. But there's also that aspect of like preserving the original method of experiencing that game. And that's one of those situations where it's like, oh yeah, you need to play this on one of these TVs
to like
really
a CRT.
Connect with it and get what's going on.
Yeah, it's like a game that probably wouldn't work if you tried to like port it. You'd have to remake it. You'd have to do a new version of it.
Yeah. And at that point, you get what do you put in the game? It can recognize what TV you're using, and then we'll change the volume thing so it knows
Maybe,
what to do.
like,
That'd be
yeah,
kind of cool,
probably.
actually.
You
That'd be
probably
pretty
could do
cool.
that now, but yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
there's like other games that have played on that, right? That use the medium well, like Undertale when it crashes.
hmm
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Like really cool.
I've never
And
experienced that on a console. Like, I'm very interested in
No.
seeing like what it is
Yeah.
like.
I don't think they can do it. It's not possible because it came up with like a message on the Nintendo Switch. I think
Okay.
it was like the
Mhm.
game would have crashed here or something, and then you would have rebooted it, which was really weird. But there's like a couple of other games I
That
played
fucked with me
that
so hard the
experiment
first time
with
I
it.
played that game.
Yeah,
What?
I wish I could have experienced on PC. Like there was a game years ago, like thinking back to survival horror, and you had to put like your email address in when you like signed up and stuff. And throughout the day, it would like periodically email you like these messages as if like it was like a case you were trying to solve or something. Like the guy was like trapped in the computer, and he would like email you and be like, "Hey, like here's a little bit more information you might need," and like it would send you like links and stuff. Can't for the life of me remember what this game is. Unless I dreamt it up, someone please let me know what this game is. I know the servers will be shut
totally
down, but
know
I
what
really
you're
want to
talking
know what
about.
it is.
Steve's pitching an
don't
ARG game
remember.
by accident.
Oh man, I think I watched somebody play that maybe like a couple years ago or something.
It was really cool. Like when I played it as like a teenager, it was such a cool idea. I loved it.
Mm-hmm. I have no
So what
idea.
I'm hearing is Nintendo needs to bring back their key horror franchise.
Yeah.
See, I
definitely.
love horror games, and like, I feel like they're missing them on their platform.
I mean, that's the thing,
And they
right?
need
That would
Resident
be cool.
Evil, like,
you know,
back.
like I think something like that would be really neat. Like if
They
Nintendo
got
was just like,
Luigi's Mansion 3, man.
you're not wrong. You're not wrong there. It would be nice to see them invest in some other genres and try to like see how Nintendo could bring the Nintendo flair to genres
I
that
feel
don't
like
work
they
for all
need-
ages. You know?
They need like another label. You know how
Yeah,
Disney
like how
used to have
Disney had like
Touchstone?
Touchstone and then wasn't the other one Buena Vista? Whatever.
And now they have a
Buena
bunch
Vista for the
at
home
this point.
stuff. Yeah,
Yeah, and
Disney
they
has
had
a bunch now since
Sure,
they've acquired
sure. Now that
everybody.
they've bought half of the media industry, but-
Fox. Yeah,
yeah, but like back in the day, right? Like they
It's
invented
really-
that.
It trips me out that I log into Disney Plus and they're like, "Here, you can watch Deadpool," and I'm just like, "Oh,
Yeah.
okay."
It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, well, is what it is. But yeah, I mean, like publishers, you know, like book publishers and stuff, like comic publishers do that, right? Like they'll have an imprint where it's like, oh, like, you know, this is. If you see, like, Marvel had a line of comics called like Max at one point, where it's like these are like adult oriented, right? Don't buy this for.
And I feel like that's what they need. If they had that, then it wouldn't interrupt with their like family friendly image and the traditional Nintendo thing. I wouldn't expect to see these at Nintendo Land or Nintendo World or whatever. Because I'm going there to see Mario.
But they
I'm not
show them
going
at maybe a
there to
Nintendo
see-
Direct, you know, like they still they're associated with the brand, but like there's some level of like, you know,
There's a little bit of distance.
in the way that they had like Nindies, right? Like you could have like, oh, it's, you know, these are whatever N+ games,
Yeah.
some bullshit like that.
And I guess I'm wondering now, like, what is their process of making a new IP? Who's in that room and that sort of thing? And like, I guess I could look at credits and find out like who's there, who's producing these things, who's
Yeah.
doing all that. But like, I don't know. I guess I wonder what their process would be of like organizing a whole group of people who are intentionally doing that, but like
Yeah.
on a different level for a different audience.
And
that
it's
sort
like,
of
do you
thing.
incubate a team to do that? Do you buy somebody? Like, you know, I don't know. There's a lot of. I think it's pretty complicated, and I think that's why we don't see a lot of new IP from Nintendo, because I'm sure there are a lot of people working at Nintendo that have ideas for new IP that just never, you know, materialize, never see the light of day, right? Like you think about like how different something like Splatoon was when it was created versus when it actually, you know, got across the finish line, and it's like there's so many people that have to agree to something before it gets that stamp of approval.
And what was the jump rope game? That one that just happened randomly during the thing. I mean, there's like small ideas happening there, you know, but like how do those get in front of the people that matter to make them happen?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
one presented by a horse.
I'm still, by the way, I think I was the only person who was like, add Jump Rope Bunny to Smash, please.
The Wii Fit trainers in there, so why not?
It'd be a really good assist trophy at the very least.
Yeah, come on.
You know? Well, let Sakurai sleep, okay? We don't need another Smash game. This is the last Smash game, everybody. It's time that everybody's going to play
and we'll see which
Warner
one's
Brothers
the first...
multiverses now.
I'm really interested to see like the first Smash game that he's not a part of, because it'll eventually happen. But
yeah, when he's
every
dead.
time he says he's done, I'm like, all right, I'll do it again.
I kind of feel like it might be this one. I could really see them coming back with another Fighters Pass at some point, in the same way they did with Mario Kart 8. Like 3 years time, they're just like, let's add some more fighters into it, because why not? We've got some new games that have come out, and we want to put these characters into Smash.
I don't know. I really feel for Sakurai, because like I know that he wants to be done and move on, but every time like, well, we're gonna do it without you, he's like, but that's my thing, that's my baby. I can't just, all right, I'll do it, you know. And it's like, I get that, I understand. I feel like put in the same position, I would do the same shit, but it's clearly killing him. Like, he's
just go out with the bang. Just go out with the bang. This was the best Smash game ever. Then just accept it and move on. Do something fresh.
Nintendo needs to move on. They need to let Smash sleep.
Not as long as it's still their third best-selling game.
No,
in the console.
They will never let it go. And I think as long as they keep bringing it back, I think Sakurai is going to just be like, okay, fine. Let's do it again. Let's do it again. Fine.
Yeah. Bandai, though, is really backing up Nintendo with a lot of things.
Yeah,
between Smash, Pokemon Snap. The only thing they really got dropped off of them was Metroid Prime 4, right?
I was going to say, they did a great job on Metroid.
They didn't like that one, but...
that didn't work out so hot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But who knows? Retro gets all their stuff canceled, so I'm not convinced. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess we'll see. I don't know, because like I really think just to put a pin on this conversation, I really think that the thing that would make the most sense would be if Nintendo was going to do this, it would be because they acquired somebody. Like if Nintendo, like we talked about them, like acquiring Sega or something like that, right? And then
it's got to be Capcom.
Sure.
Yeah.
But either way, right? Like same example, right? If they bought Capcom, okay, well then Monster Hunter is an M-rated Nintendo franchise, and eventually you'll think of it as a Nintendo franchise, and that'll be that. I think that's the most likely scenario for them to court that market more than anything else.
I just feel like they've got such a good lineage with Capcom. You've got Monster Hunter, Ace Attorney, Mega Man.
They're also one of the only...
you get Resident Evil back, and they're the kind of level I feel like Nintendo would want to acquire.
They're also one of the only companies that they've ever trusted to work on their IP. They've made multiple Zelda games, and that are beloved.
Zelda games, yeah.
So big IP,
yeah,
like that. Right. That's major. Working on Zelda.
I wouldn't say no.
The team I could actually see them buying though, just to add before we end, is Mercury Steam. I feel like I'm surprised that they haven't bought them yet to just make all of the Metroid games.
I think it'll happen sooner than later. Honestly. Nintendo sometimes really plays the long game with that sort of thing, you know?
Yeah, and then they miss out on people. Like Rare, for example. Like it could have
had Conquer. That could have been our M-rated franchise. 15 plus in the UK. They let you guys do anything over there, huh? Anyway. All right, that's going to wrap it up for this week's episode of Nintendo Noise. Thank you guys for joining us. Thank you to everybody who wrote in. Remember, if you want to be a part of the show, head over to flipscreen.games. You can write into the show. You can write in with a main topic or a start screen or whatever. Just write in. We got a bunch of ones waiting in the chamber for next week. So we might have to do a mailbag episode one of these days if you keep them coming. So my challenge to you, listener, write in for next week, okay? I want to hear from you. Lots of good news lately. So if you want to comment on anything from this week or, come up with your own.
Well, and let us all know what your Xenoblade thoughts are or did you survive if that comes out.
That's true.
I'm not on the next week's episode, so it's one of those rare ones where I get to listen to Pete, Chuy, and I guess is Sierra joining you guys to talk about this one?
I'll call her and see if she's available. That's what I do whenever one of you goons calls out.
The only goal we have is to get you to buy Xenoblade by the end of that episode. That's it.
Well, and Sierra can tell us if the game runs, I guess, because we won't know.
I mean, I'm buying both, but I'll see how Digimon goes.
All right, good. So that'll be the main topic next week. So if you want to write in about either of those games, if you're picking them up, please do. We'd love to hear from you. Remember, flipscreen.games, that's a website. You'll find links to the Patreon, the Twitch channel, the rest of it. It's all there. However you choose to get involved, we really appreciate you. And thank you for tuning in for another episode of Nintendo Noise. For the crew, I've been Pete. He's been Chewy. He's been Steve. We'll see you next week. Boy.